Hey, everybody, welcome back to another fantastic edition of the His and Her Money Show, where we make it our business to help you take dominion over your money and your life. Thank you for tuning in for another fantastic episode. You know, we try really hard to give you every facet of this money game to help you make wise decisions. Some have to do with the present, but some have to do with the future. Either way, you need to make appropriate decisions that's going to help you create the type of legacy that you want to create for yourself and for those that will come behind you. And I think we're going to do a good job of helping you in that endeavor again with today's episode. As we always say, though, be a good friend, be a good neighbor. And when you hear something that resonates with you that you feel others should know about, you should be a kind person and share. So, yeah, share this episode. Put it on your social media. Tag us at His and Her Money, no matter what social media platform you use, and we will show you love right back. Throw it up in your IG stories and tell them, hey, y'all need to be listening to the His and Her Money Show. Thank you in advance for doing just that. We're going to be tackling college and money on today's episode, but not in the way you think. A lot of times we talk about student loans and student loan debt, and we're going to take a proactive approach today. We're going to talk about college 529 plan. Some of you may be like, what the heck is that? Don't worry. We have an expert to help us all understand this a little bit better and how this can help us do something different for our kids, our grandkids, when it comes to how they will approach their college education and financing it. We're going to be talking with Robert Farrington from The College Investor. He's coming back again. Every time he comes, he brings a wealth of knowledge and practical insight that we can all walk out. So get your pen and paper ready to take some good notes. Let's get Robert on so we can hear his advice on this matter. Hey, Robert, welcome back to the His and Her Money Show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I love coming back here and talking money topics with you guys. And I'm excited to let's avoid student loans this time and talk about saving for college.
That's right, because last couple times, you always come here to give us what's going on in the world of student loan debt and how to, take advantage and maximize what we can do to get rid of it. Some people, they're being introduced to you right here, right now for the first time, though. They don't know about your work. So can you just say hello to them and kind of let them know what you're all about?
Absolutely. So I'm Robert Farrington. I am the founder of The College Investor, and I love helping people get out of student loan debt to start investing and building wealth early. But I also love getting ahead of the curve, so we don't need to go down the student loan conversation. And let's talk about saving for college so you don't have student loan debt. Or I know a lot of you out there are younger families, and maybe you had student loans and you want to give your kids a better future, right? So let's talk about how you can do that, save for college for them so that you're not burdening them with student loan debt down the road.
Let's talk about that, because that phrase, or that sentence, going to college and avoiding debt, for some, because of the way that it's marketed and promoted, seems impossible, seems unrealistic. So can you talk about what level of realism is it to that statement, that sentiment that, hey, it's possible that your kids can go to college without debt?
Well, let's just fact check reality right now. So 1/3 of all college graduates today have no student loan debt. And that's fact. But on the flip side, the scarier stat is 2/3 do, right? But it also doesn't have to be a burden, right? So if you can save, earn money, spend less on college, you can also lower the amount of student loan you take. So, when you get out, it's not this huge financial burden. If you only borrow 10 or 15,000, which, let's be honest, like, rather not, but if you do, it's a reasonable amount to pay back. It's not the horror stories you hear on TV where $100,000 of student loans or $200,000 student loans, when that can really be a challenge to ever get out of. If you do have a small amount, it can be a really positive thing, because if you're earning more after graduation and able to afford it, like, it can still be a springboard to a better life.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And there's so many alternative ways. Our story, Ty worked her way through college, so she graduated in 5 years instead of 4, but she graduated debt free. I went to the military first and then went to college, and so all of my college degrees were paid for by the government. So there's lots of different ways to present options to your children to help them avoid debt. Because the truth of the matter is, what you don't want is for your child to be 25, ready to get married, want to start a family, and they have student loan debt holding them back. I can't tell you how many people have reached out with us with this question: can I afford to have children? Can I afford to start a family? And the heart behind it is, I've got all this debt and I don't know if I can afford a child. Like, that's heartbreaking to me.
Oh, it's so bad. And that's the thing. And I think it's important for people to realize that paying for college, I like to view as like a pie. And there are a lot of slices, right? And there's like better slices and worse slices. And you can have your earnings, your parents' earnings, your savings. Maybe parents save something for college. You also have all these alternative ways. Maybe you did go to the military. You have VA, a payment assistance. Maybe your employer can throw some money in there. Even working at Starbucks or Target or Walmart, they all offer tuition assistance programs that can help pay for some of your college. Then you have regular scholarships, you have regular grants, you have need-based financial aid, merit-based financial aid, work study. Then we get to student loans.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if
At
you
the
can
very
do all
bottom of
these,
the list.
yeah. But so it's like, but they're all pie slices, right? So if you can have some bigger pie slices of the good stuff, and then like you keep the student loans as really skinny, small slices, like it could be a good thing, right?
For sure. For sure. So let's talk about this thing that's out there called College 529 plans. Somebody's hearing that for the very first time. What in the world is that, Robert?
So a 529 plan is a tax deferred education savings account. It's kind of like an IRA or a 401k, but it's for saving for college. I would also put an asterisk there that it's for saving for education. Doesn't have to just be college. A lot of people get freaked out by that. It could be for apprenticeships, other types of education. It can even be used for private K through 12 elementary school. So there's a lot of options for using it. So it's better to call it an education savings account. But yes, it also is a college savings account as well. But you put money in, it grows tax free. And if you use it for education, it can be pulled out tax free.
All right. So I love the fact that you started describing about the fact that it's tax deferred. So how is that plus could be beneficial for us as investors slash parents as college savers?
Absolutely. So you put the money in and it grows with no taxes. And if you pull the money out for education, you don't pay any taxes either. So you get to realize all that growth. But part two is, in 30 something states, you get a tax credit or a tax deduction for putting money into the account. So it really can even save you on your taxes to save for your kids' college. And I will say, in about 20 states, they'll give you $50 or $100 just for opening the account or having the baby to start with. You got to check. Like some states, if your kid's born, they'll put $50 in the account for you. So I love free money. Take advantage of the free money, right?
Absolutely. We all about that over here at His and Her Money. So you said it's a savings account for future educational expenses. So some people will be saying, do I just go down to my local bank? Where do I find these 529 plans?
So every state has their own plan, which does make it a little complicated. But at the same time, you can Google your state's 529 plan. You can go to my website. You can just go online. You can find it. And you can open the 529 plan in your state. The important reason you use your state's plan is that's how you get the tax credit or tax deduction. If you open another state's plan, you might not get the credit in your own state.
Got it. Now, you compare the 529 plan to that of an IRA or a 401k. So with those types of accounts, there are accounts, but then you have to decide how the money that you put into it is invested. So are we looking at the same thing when it comes to a 529 plan?
Absolutely. It's the same exact thing. So if you put the money in, it goes into just the cash. And then you got to pick some funds or plans. And they have target date funds just like you'd see in a 401k, except the target date's the date your kid's going to college. not your retirement age. So, if you got 10 years until your kid's going to college, potentially, you'd pick the plan that's 10 years out. And you can also pick things like the S&P 500 or just a savings account if you're very risk adverse.
So, what are some best practices based on all your research, based on the people that you've helped and served through your own community when it comes to opening up a 529 plan for our kids or our children? What do you want us to keep in mind from the outset?
So, first off, you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first and take care of your own finances. Like, I know we want to help our kids, but don't do it at your own expense, first off. But don't let that stop you. So, one of the best ways I've seen these accounts utilized is using it as a community to help the child. And what I mean by that is every birthday and Christmas, instead of grandma, giving, a $5 in cash to your kid and a gift, have them put that money into the 529 plan so that the kid can save for the future. And if you start doing this at every birthday and every holiday, and you get aunt and uncle and grandma, and you start having this whole community collective saving, you'll start seeing hundreds and then thousands of dollars get added into this account. And let's be honest, by the time you have a 5-year-old's birthday, they're getting like 30 presents, right? They play with 3 of them. So it's like, instead of having everyone go to Target and spend 30 or 40 bucks on a Lego set or whatever, it's like that money could go to their future. And let's be honest, someone's not going to do it anyway, so they're still going to get plenty of presents. But if you can even get a fraction of your friends and family to contribute to the college plan in lieu of gifts, man, that money starts stacking up. And you start seeing, when your kid's a teenager, they're going to have 20, 30, $40,000, because like it's going to grow as well as these gifts keep getting added. And now you have a sizable chunk of money to save for college or pay for college. And you might not have contributed that much. It was all a community collective effort for the kid.
Now, are there any fees or anything like that that we need to keep an eye out for or have an understanding about as we go into this process?
Yes, there is a fee. It's just like a 401k. The mutual funds have a fee, things like that. But you get tax benefits and stuff, and you don't necessarily get a choice, right? It's your state's plan, and you just have to roll with it. But the benefits outweigh any costs in the long run, long term growth.
All right. Now, both the 401k and the IRA have limits as to how much you can put inside of it from year to year. Is that the same case with the 529 plans?
It has the limit, but it's the gift tax limit, which is about $15,000 that you can gift to somebody without having to report it to the IRS. But that doesn't mean that that's the limit, because you could contribute 15, your spouse can contribute 15, and you could put a lot in there, and it gets really high pretty quick. And the accounts do have aggregate limits. The states don't let you put in more than 400 or $500,000, and that's a state by state rule. But man, like if you're at that level, like you shouldn't even be saving in a 529. Like there's no college that's going to be that expensive.
And now that brings up a great point. Some people might be like, well, how much should I be putting in here? Because maybe their kid is 2 or 5 or 7, and who knows what the cost of tuition will be a decade from now.
Right. So anything is better than nothing. But you do get to a point where it might not make a lot of sense. So once you're at like 100 or $200,000 in this account, you don't need to put any more into it. But on the lower end, anything helps. The average cost of college right now is going to be $30,000 to $40,000 for an in-state school. And so
Per
if you
year?
start, no,
In
total
total.
for tuition, but tuition. Now you start adding in fancy dorms and other stuff, it can go up a lot. But it's all on the scale that you want to pay or save for your children, right? So if you're looking at in-state school, $30 to $40,000 total will cover that. But if you're starting at 2, that's like $20, $30 a month, and let that grow. But if you're later, you might want to put more in. And even if you have teenagers or 18-year-olds that are looking to pay for college right now, you might even want to contribute just to get the state tax deduction and then roll that money right over to the tuition, right? Like if you were going to cut a check for tuition anyways, get your tax credit.
Yeah. So that is a great point, because some people might be saying, "Well, it's too late. My kids are in high school, or my kid just graduated just now." And so you're saying that it's still beneficial, because if you were getting ready to pay for tuition, or you were getting ready to pay for room and board, you can still do it, but funnel it through the 529 for the tax benefits.
Absolutely. And so you can put it in there for the tax benefits. And even if you weren't going to contribute a lot, right? Maybe you were only going to put $500 to your kid's school this year. Well, you could get a tax credit for that. You might as well take it.
So how, if I put my money in, I got some in there, my kids are going to college, how do I get it to pay for the tuition or pay for the room and board?
It's super easy. Every plan makes it a little different, but you log in. A lot of school or a lot of plans now, you log in, enter your school's name, and it'll send it right to the school. But you can also write a check. Some of them have debit cards. Like there's different ways to access the funds. You can even write yourself a check or a direct deposit, and then there you go. You can, as long as you keep accurate records, you'll be okay.
Now, for each state, is it just one option, or does each state have multiple options as far as 529 plans that you can enroll in?
Most states have multiple options, but you're not going to access all of them because some of them have them certain through advisors, through direct sold. But really, most states have one option for their consumer that you can just go on to their website and enroll. So I'm in California, California Scholar Share, one account. You just open it up, and a lot of states are very similar.
And so you kind of touched on it, but can you elaborate a little further? What all can we use this money for?
Yeah. So first off, you have college, right? So you have tuition for college, room and board, as long as they're a half-time student. You can buy technology, accessories, anything that's required by the courses. Then you have tuition for apprenticeships, you trade school, vocational school. So maybe your child isn't going to a traditional 4-year college, but maybe they want to go be an electrician or a pilot or something else, and they're going to a vocational school. You can use the tuition for that. Then you have K to 12 private education. So you can use up to $10,000 a year if you want to send your child to a private school. And that can be private, non-denominational. It can be a private religious school. It doesn't matter. You have $10,000 a year that you can use through K to 12 education. Then you can also use it for student loan repayment, believe it or not. You can do $10,000 one time for student loan repayment, and you can put that towards your student loan debt. And so there's a lot of options. And the one thing I will say is that the amount of options keep growing every couple years. So they just keep expanding what you can use it for. It used to be just college. Now it's K through 12. Now they added apprenticeships and student loans. So I see that continuing too, because I think we all holistically agree that education is a positive benefit. And, as a result, those are the incentives we're seeing for using these accounts.
So, as a parent, I can also put money in there towards my student. I can put money in there that I can use. If I was going to make my student loan payment next month anyway, I can funnel that through a five. So I can open up one for myself
You could.
and get a little bit of tax,
One time,
benefits.
you get one time 10 grand for your own student loan. So you get a tax deduction for that. And you can't double dip with like the student loan interest deduction or other things. But yes, if you weren't getting a tax break, you could definitely do that in your state.
All right. So now if I go, you said you're in California, I'm in Illinois. So if I, open up one for my child, one for each child, because it's not one for your whole family. You can open up one for each child and say, my child wants to go to Ohio State. Can I use the money that I put in an Illinois 529 plan to pay for a school in Ohio?
Yes, 100%. You can use it for any qualifying school. There's even schools overseas that you could use it for. The key is they have to be a US accredited educational institution. So any of those apply in the United States. Overseas, there's about 200 schools. So even if the child goes to Europe or something, like that, they could use it there. That's the key, though. The tax rules and benefits, though, all apply to the state that you're in as the filer. So Illinois rules apply even if the kid goes to Ohio State because you're living in Ohio. Or sorry, you're living in Illinois.
All right. So as long as it's happening in the state that the person paying into it, um, that's where I open it. So I'm thinking of people that are in one state, but maybe, their child is with, maybe they have a blended family situation. They have a child in another state. So they would open the 529 plan for that child in the state that the parent live in.
Yep, exactly. So that's where you'd open it, and those are the tax rules that would apply. And it's super common for kids to go to college in other states. So you open it in your state, and then you're just paying the tuition bill in the other state.
So somebody might be saying, Robert, I'm going to put all this money in there, and then my kid gets a full ride scholarship, the Melinda Bill Gates scholarship, and now I put all this money in there. What happens to my money?
So this is why people don't necessarily like these accounts. So if you pull out the money for non-educational expenses, you do face taxes and a penalty. Now, but part two, though, if they do get a full ride scholarship, you could pull out the money without the penalty. You still got to pay the taxes. And this is where it's like an IRA, right? So like an IRA, when you withdraw, you still got to pay your taxes, but you don't have to pay any penalties unless it's early withdrawal. Well, a 529 plan has a lot of ways to get out the penalty, including having a full ride scholarship or things like that, but you might still pay taxes. However, what a lot of people don't realize is that you can change the beneficiary. So you just had the example, you got one for each kid. Well, you can always change it to a second kid, or if you're gonna, like, maybe they all got full ride scholarships and you didn't have to use any of that money. Well, you could set this up like a family education trust and just let the money grow and then use it for grandkids, nieces and nephews. You could have this just be there, and then at some point in time in the future you can change the beneficiary. You could use it for yourself. You can change it all the way down the road. So people get very scared by the fact that they might have to pay a penalty. And that's like a worst case scenario. There's a lot of other options before you ever get to that.
Man, that's some good stuff. So are there some things that those people who have heard of the 529 plan, but they may not have thought about this? Are there some other things that we need to know about the 529 plan to help us make the best decision possible as to whether or not this is a good fit for our family?
Yeah, so it's really about comparing the 529 plans to the other college savings options, right? Like what's the best? And a lot of this also factors into getting financial aid, right? And so you probably heard of the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. And a lot of people worry, like, oh my gosh, if I save a lot of money or have a lot of money, my kids won't get any financial aid. Well, the 529 plan is the least impactful to any financial aid that they could get. So don't worry about saving for your kids' college, that it could impact their financial aid, because it's like a catch 22. Either you're going to save a ton and they're not going to qualify for financial aid, but you could just pay for it. Or if you don't save a lot, it's not going to impact them to get the aid that they might qualify for. So just, I would say, don't be so fearful and live in a way that, like, I'm not going to do any kind of saving because like I'm trying to get like a merit scholar, or sorry, a need-based scholarship. Like save. The other alternatives that people talk about and you might hear about is saving in a Roth IRA. Because you can use a Roth IRA for educational expenses. However, this one's a challenging one because it's very hard to get money into a kid's IRA because the kid's got to work. So, like, how do you get a lot of money into it, right? It's not hard. And for parents, you don't want to pull out of your own retirement account when you're in your 40s or 50s because that's prime time growth time. And like, remember, put the oxygen mask on yourself first. Take care of your own retirement. And so like when you're comparing the two, the 529 plans still has a lot more benefits than the alternatives. You also have what's called a Coverdell education savings account, which is an older account, very similar to a 529 plan. And its positive is that it has better K through 12 educational benefits. So if you don't know if your kid's going to college, but like you're paying for private school today, maybe you look at that account, but it has very strict contribution limits. And that's the downside there. It's you can't get a lot of money into it. So again, the 529 plan kind of ekes out as the winner. And so if we're talking about saving for college and you're looking for the kind of general number one recommendation, 529 plan continues to come out on top. There might be a better situation for you, but if you don't want to think about it, if you're not in a nuanced situation, it's probably a 529 plan.
And what are your thoughts on, because people have asked us, not necessarily getting an IRA, but just a traditional brokerage account or a we call it UGMA account.
Yeah,
to where
UTMA.
or it's it's not tied to retirement, but it's tied to the stock market. That way, if the whole scholarship scenario, or my kid goes to the military, or my kid goes to something else, and it's not the college situation, there's no penalty, but there's still taxes if you cash out. So like, what's your thoughts on that?
It's a great way to save. I mean, like you said, it's a taxable investing account for your child. And it's not bad, but you don't get any tax benefits for doing it. You don't get any state tax breaks. The money is taxable. And so you will pay taxes every year because as you invest, those mutual funds or index funds will be putting out dividends and capital gains. So even if you're reinvesting those, you're going to have a tax bill for your children every year. And if it gets to a point where they're starting to make $2,000 a year or so, you're going to be subject to the kiddie tax. And what that means is that your kids will actually pay taxes at the parents' level. And so like you're like, well, my kid doesn't earn any money. Like they're only making $2,000 a year in dividends, which is amazing, cool, right? But on the flip side, they're going to be in your parents' tax bracket. So it's like they're going to be paying 25% or whatever it is. And again, it's not bad, right? We're not talking about huge sums. And especially if you're at that level, they probably have a good size account, maybe $40,000, $50,000, UTMA to start earning that level of income. But at the same time, like realize that it's not as tax efficient. But again, it's not a bad choice. So I'd rather, again, it's like, if you told me like, this is the only way we're doing it, I'm not going to save otherwise, please save, can invest. But like, if you really think education is the point, I would choose a 529 over a UTMA.
Good stuff. Now, people don't have to figure this out all on their own. You've got some amazing resources at your website that can help people kind of go through this journey intelligently. So can you tell everybody what you have for them in regards to college savings and where they can go and get it?
Yeah, so you can go to thecollegeinvestor.com/529-plan. And I have all 50 states there. You can click your state. You can find out how your plan is, what the limits are, any tax deductions that your state offers, and you can open your plan right from that site. You can click a link; it'll take you right to the plan's website, and so you can figure it all out. So it is, we're in the United States, 50 states. There's actually 48 plans because 2 states were too lazy to open their own, and they say like go to another state. But otherwise, if you're not in Wyoming, you don't have a problem. Find your state and go find the state plan.
Nice. And we'll be sure to have that linked in the show notes of this episode for you. Robert, can't say thank you enough. Let everybody know where you're at on social media so they can keep up with all the great content, because you put out massive amounts of quality content on a regular basis.
Oh man, thank you. So you can find me at thecollegeinvestor.com, on Instagram, The College Investor, TikTok, The College Investor, on Twitter, College Investin. Wherever you're at, we're there. And if you like listening to podcasts, like I'm sure you do, because you're listening to the His and Her Money Show, you can find the College Investor audio show as well.
Man, we'll be sure to have links to everything that Robert mentioned, including his guide to help you navigate the journey to getting your 529 plans up and running. Thank you so much for coming by once again and dropping knowledge like you always do on the His and Her Money Show, Robert.
No, thanks for having me. I love being here with you guys.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another fantastic edition of the His and Her Money Show is in the books. You got some quality information. Now it's time for you to take your research to heart and then execute. Hey, you want to be proactive in this, because college tuition ain't coming down. It's only going up. And we want to make sure that we put our kids in the best position as possible when their time comes, so that they don't have to start their adulthood saddled with debt. There are some things we can do now to help them in that endeavor. All right, guys, remember, we've got quality episodes and education and inspiration just like this at our website, hisandhermoney.com. That's all we got for this time, guys. It's been great. Until next time, peace.